Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, we're going to be discussing the 2019 film Spider-Man Far From Home. Starring Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and you have Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, as the villain in this movie, and you also have Samuel L. Jackson in this movie, as well as Nick Fury reprising his role. He plays several times in the Marvel, movie universe. Of course, this movie, and we also have, I should also mention, you have Marissa Tomei as smoking hot Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, which is one of the main problems that I have with these particular Spider-Man films, because this is the fourth Spider-Man film without Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and of course, when Spider-Man first came into his movies back in the early 2000s, with the original Spider-Man film in 2002, Tobey Maguire was the best actor to play Spider-Man. But since then, he had 3 movie deals to play Spider-Man. He did the 3 movies, and that's it. He never renewed it. So since then, they made 4 movies, and they also kicked out Sam Raimi as director. He was perfect as a director for Spider-Man because he was a Spider-Man fan as a kid. So it'll be perfect. They have a Spider-Man fan directing, these big blockbuster films. But unfortunately, the problem was that Sony kicked him out as director of the Spider-Man films. And of course, when Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst's contracts were up for the 3 picture deal, they decided to recast everybody and reboot the whole movie franchise with first Andrew Garfield, and now they rebooted it a second time with Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland is not that bad as Spider-Man, because he's more of a wise ass, with more wisecracks in this cat in his performance as Spider-Man than even Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire didn't give them a wisecracks when he played the part in 3 movies. But at least give the reboots, the four reboot movies or post Maguire movies credit, because they are using other villains. With the lone exception of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, was the second movie that Andrew Garfield did, where they brought back Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin, or the son of the Green Goblin. They did that. But other than The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they used other Spider-Man villains in the Spider-Man universe for these films, which is what I give them credit for. Even though the Tom Holland films are a little bit sillier, little bit, they dumb down the storylines to assault our intelligence. Pretty much, and that's why I feel that this Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Away From Home, or Far Away, or I should say Far Away From Home, feels like. It feels like maybe a plot you see in the Spider-Man the animated series that took place back in the 90s. But it's exactly what this plot is, other than the fact that instead of being in New York City, it was in Europe. The plot is that Peter Parker and his high school class goes on a field trip to Europe, touring Europe and different museums and stuff in Europe. And while he's about to leave for his trip, Nick Fury, who's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., for those of you who don't know the Marvel comic book universe, is constantly calling him. Constantly. Driving Peter crazy, because he's constantly calling him. He's not interested in doing anything for S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. But when Peter gets to Europe, to first Venice, I should say, Venice, Italy, Nick finally corners him and says, "Look, I need your help." And so, "What do you need my help for?" And so you always, and Peter gives him and says, "Look, the reason I'm not interested is because you guys always say that I'm not a right fit for you guys. So the hell with you guys." And they say that to screw off, to go screw yourselves, because they said, you said that I'm not ready, I'm not a good fit for you, I'm not a good fit for S.H.I.E.L.D. So why should I knock myself out if you tell me all this stuff? So Nick says, you're right to a point. He says, well, you're right to a point, but I need your help because we have this other guy named Mysterio. And what they didn't call him Mysterio yet, they call him, but well, I forgot his act. Oh, Quentin Beck. We have this guy named Quentin Beck who came from another Earth after the whole Infinity War, storyline they had in the previous films with the Avengers. He's from another Earth, and he's here to help us out with these 4 elements that's attacking people. He already knocked down 3 of them, and now there's only 1 left, and it's fire. But what Nick Fury doesn't know, and Spider-Man and Peter and his soon-to-be girlfriend Mary Jane, who I should mention that they changed. This was driving me nuts. They changed. Not only did there's the second reboot in the Spider-Man franchise, but they also changed the skin color of Mary Jane Watson. Because we all know Mary Jane is supposed to be this beautiful, white, red-headed girl who was played by Kristen Dunst in the original, in the Sam Raimi movies. And also, she was always portrayed as a redhead in the comic books and the Spider-Man, the animated series back in the 90s. Now, all of a sudden, they made her into a black girl. Or possibly a mixed race girl. And she's not a redhead. This girl is not a redhead. She's not white. Come on, cut to add more color to these movies. If the character was originally black, I won't say anything. Or if the character was originally Hispanic or Asian or whatever, I won't say anything about it. If the character was always black, that's one thing. But Mary Jane was never black. She was a white, red-headed girl. That's what she always was, and that's who they should always get to play the part. And I don't care what the PC police say or whatever. That's the case. So anyway, yeah, I know I got sidetracked my math there, but the fact of the matter is that they changed the ethnicity of Mary Jane Watson. Because anybody who's a fan of Spider-Man should be outraged over that. Okay, I have to say they should be outraged over that. It's kind of like the same thing what they did with Electro. They hired Jamie Foxx to play Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. People were like outraged over that. They hired a black guy to play the part. Well, I don't know why they're not as outraged as they hired a black or mixed race girl to play Mary Jane Watson. She's not even a redhead. At least put a redhead wig on her, or have her get a dye job so she could be a redhead to try and match the character as much as possible. But they didn't even do that. But anyway, getting back to the plot of the movie, that Mary Jane and Peter figure out that the whole element thing was set up by Quentin Beck, and at that point they called him Mysterio. Nobody really knew who he was as with his whole costume and the fishbowl thing and everything else. So Peter kind of jokingly called him Mysterio because it was like a mystery. He was like a mystery guy doing all these crazy gadgets, and then Peter realizes that Mysterio is using illusions to make himself look good, and not only that, but to trick Peter into giving him these glasses that Tony Stark left him. And in the beginning of the movie, because Nick Fury gave Peter these glasses, and he says, "Oh, Tony Stark left these for you. He wants you to have these glasses, and his glasses for a computer system." In the glasses called Edith, it's short for "Even Dead, I'm the Hero." With a crazy acronym there, and so Mysterio was able to say, "Oh, I want to be the next Tony Stark." And he was able to convince Peter to give Mysterio these glasses, and then of course after Spider-Man gave him the glasses, Peter realized he got snookered, and so they knew that that Mysterio set this whole thing up because it's true, the Quentin Beck wanted to be the next Tony Stark, and Cronenberg felt that this 16-year-old kid, Spider-Man was Peter was at that time in this movie, he shouldn't be the next Tony Stark. I should be the next Tony Stark because I'm the one who built all these adventures for his company, and I'm the one who should get credit as the next Tony Stark. So it was like really more like a revenge type thing than anything else. So of course you had this big battle in London between Spider-Man and Mysterio, and he was able to defeat Mysterio at the end of the movie. But Mysterio had one more trick up his sleeve. Mysterio, like you have so often in these in these superhero movies in general, when the supervillain dies at the end of the movie. Spoiler for those of you who never seen this movie: Mysterio dies at the end of the film. But before he died, Mysterio sent a video to the press, saying that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So Mysterio actually outed Spider-Man, who Spider-Man's real identity is, to the whole world. Even though that's the problem they have with these superhero movies in general. That, particularly in the Spider-Man universe, where the villain somehow figures out, either the villain figures out or Spider-Man tells him, which happened in Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, where all the villains figure out who in the Spider-Man films who Spider-Man was. And this one is no different. I mean, they all figured out, for some simple reason, the only villain in the Spider-Man universe who figured out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man was the Green Goblin. Norman Osborn was the only one who ever figured out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. But in the movies, the villain always figures out or finds out who the Spider-Man is, which I think is ridiculous. But it's a plot point that they put in the movies, and that's it. And that's pretty much how the movie ends. But there's an extra scene during the closing credits where there's two aliens who impersonate Nick Fury, and they tell Nick Fury, "Hey Nick, we gave Peter the glasses and stuff, yada yada yada." And then it looks like that Nick Fury was like on vacation or something, and he says, "Okay, people, let's get back to work." And that's it. The extra scene they threw in the closing credits, but it also became a theme in the Marvel comic book the Marvel movie universe. And they put in this extra scene, and as soon as you get about a couple of minutes into the closing credits, where everybody's getting and believing, and hey, don't leave, they got an extra scene in here. And people go run back into the theaters and see the extra scene, which is always hysterical to see that. But I didn't think the movie was half bad, but enough. I feel like it's enough for the reboots, enough of putting Peter Parker back in high school and stuff like that. Let him age. Let him age. I mean, it's going to be like the Karate Kid movies, where after about 2 or 3 movies, they had to bring him back to high school and stuff, and never letting Ralph Macchio grow up until the Cobra Kai show. But neither here or there. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that they keep rebooting the movies to Spider-Man as a teenager. I mean, it's enough already. Let him grow up. Let Spider-Man grow up. Let him be an adult already. I mean, they did that with Tobey Maguire, but with the Tobey Maguire movies, but they're not letting him do it with the 4 reboots they had. But that's my one big complaint. But Spider-Man Far From Home, it's not a bad movie, but I've seen better Spider-Man films, like the Tobey Maguire films, even Spider-Man 3, as lousy as Spider-Man 3 was, is better than the last 4 Spider-Man films, in my opinion. So that's my review of the movie Spider-Man Far From Home. Please click on the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video on your Facebook pages. And you can check out all my reviews and on my YouTube channel at rallyc.com, that's over WDY, and C.com is our homepage. You want to review Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.